Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Ramblings of an Insomniac. I am Courtney. How in the heck is everyone doing? How are ya? So I have to say, this is the fourth shot now, the fourth try at recording this podcast. The first time I recorded it, I didn't realize the battery was as dead as it was, and the battery was dying. The second time I tried recording, there was so much background noise. And don't get me wrong, you guys have heard my podcast. You know that I will allow background noise. I say it in the introduction. I make it known that you're going to hear cars and all of that stuff, my dogs and everything. But this was like obnoxious. Then, this is interesting, I've been getting a lot of prank calls lately. Remember prank calls back in the day, Generation X, before caller ID? Like, God, when star 69 and star 67 came out, we were like, son of a bitch. But I've been getting a lot of prank calls. And do you say prank or crank? I say prank calls. But some people say crank calls, and I don't like that. I'm not a fan of crank calls. I say prank with a P, like penguin. Anyway, been getting a lot of prank calls lately, and they're not saying anything mean. They're not saying anything threatening. It's not like I'm scared or worried, and it honestly sounds like someone young that I may know. And the first couple of times I just kind of sat there and kept it on speaker and didn't say a word and just went about my business, and they kept going, hello, hello. But I'm going to get a air horn and a foghorn, air horn, whatever you call them, like that canned air where it goes, you know, I can't do it. Do you guys like my sound effects? It's supposed to be, God, now there's like, jeez Louise, I'm not going to get this podcast done. Someone's got a leaf blower going on. Oh my God. It's a beautiful day, so people are outside getting stuff done while they can, because I'm sure the rain is going to be coming soon. But anyway, one of my bosses had told me about a time that she kept getting prank phone calls, and she warned the guy. She was like, look, if you call again, you're going to regret it. Like, you are going to regret it. And sure enough, they called again, and she did one of those air horns in his ear, and I'm sure the guy is deaf. So I will have some surprises and some things. I'm not into it. So I kept trying to do a podcast, and this little shit kept calling me. Now, okay, I do have to say, that's called karma biting me in the ass. And that is karma because back in my day, I was a little asshole. God, I was an asshole and did prank phone calls that were shitty. Like, they were real shitty. And I didn't realize, honest to God, at the time, didn't realize how shitty it was. I thought I was just being funny, and I thought it wasn't a big deal. But it was like fucked up. And I would do like really shitty things, like call people, because back then we had phone books. You have to remember, this is when they were phone books. This is when there wasn't caller ID. This is back before you could block a call and back before you could, get the number. So, you would look in the phone book, and we would purposely find like a male and female name, assuming that they were husband and wife, especially if it was the same last name. And we would call them, and we would say really crappy things. Like, if the wife would answer, we'd be like, hello, is Wayne there? Oh, he is? Oh, good. Let him know that and we'd make up a name, and we would say stuff to allude to the fact that their spouse was having an affair. It's horrible. I'm going to hell, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I have I have tried to make it right and be like, God, I'm an asshole. So this is karma, because I would do really shitty things. Then sometimes I would just call and do the standard, is your refrigerator running? You better go catch it. That crap. And we would just call and sit silently and see what people would have to say. And we would do that. But so this is karma, and I can't complain. And I'm well aware that my pranks were horrible. God, I hope I didn't actually cause any issues. I hope that they were well aware that I was some kid, because I'm talking, you guys, this is when I'm in 3rd and 4th grade. And I'm thinking it's funny because back then we had, I didn't have older siblings, but my friends had older siblings that were doing this. And we thought they were cool. And we thought, well, if they're doing it and they're older, it must be cool. So we would do shit like that. And we would copy what they were saying and not really realizing the depth of, just how bad that was. Of course, I know that now. But I didn't realize it then. So anyway, I was trying to do a podcast. Again, circling back around. I circle it. See, you like that? That's a sharp brain right there for an insomniac. Just kidding. So this is my 4th attempt at this podcast. We shall see how it goes. All right, so let's get down to it, shall we, before something else happens. You can hear the construction in the background. Lovely. I keep thinking that I'm on a time constraint today because normally I would be going to work. And let's just say I may now have some free time. And let's just say I don't have a time constraint or anywhere to be tomorrow. By the way, in my last podcast, I kept saying, let's just say so often that if you guys made it into a drinking game, you would be absolutely belligerent in the first 10 minutes because I kept saying, let's just say. I don't know why. So for the duration of this, I'm just going to tell you guys a story. It's going to be a little story that is, it's a fictional story. And I'm just going to see what your thoughts would be if this were to actually happen to somebody. And so, yes. So if this were to happen to someone, I'm just going to tell you guys a little fictional story and get your thoughts and see what you think. So there's a woman, this happened to a friend. This happened to a friend of mine. And she used to work at a place for a long time, for almost 8 years. And she developed a really good, meaningful relationship with her customers to the point that they were like family. She trusted them like family. She talked to them like family. She genuinely felt as if they were part of her family. And because, she didn't have family of her own, she doesn't have siblings or any family alive, she really grew attached to her customers and their pets and got to know about their lives and was genuinely interested in their lives. She wasn't just saying it the way that some people do when they're like, hey, how are you doing today? But they don't actually want to know how you're doing today. She meant it. And anyways, over 8 years, almost 8 years, developed a very good relationship, the customers came and would tell her that they came because dropping off your pet is difficult. It's really hard to trust somebody to care for your fur baby. And they trusted me. And then somehow along the way, this company got new owners. And the new owners, for various reasons, were unable to be around for the first year that they owned the business. And in that time, my friend completely ran the place. Her and her fiance and her son ran the place. They stayed the night and took turns staying the night. There were many, many holidays that they missed together because somebody had to be there 24/7. And since someone had to be there 24/7, 365, they took turns. And they would stay there when there was a lawn chair, a blow-up mattress, no internet, and no cable for the longest time. And they sat there when an ice storm hit and made sure that the animals didn't die and didn't freeze to death, and made sure that the pipes and the very expensive, very important pump didn't freeze to death. And at the time, that pump was not insulated. So it took a lot of work to constantly go out and check on the dogs and check on the pipes and check on the pump. And again, when there is no heat and, you only have 2 blankets and the roads are so icy and her fiance and her lived up on a hill, a very windy hill, and that hill became icy. So they were unable to see each other for a while and, couldn't bring food or more blankets or anything like that. So suffice it to say, long story short, this friend of mine put in a massive amount of overtime for free, put in a massive amount of attention to detail and time and energy and genuine caring for the animals there and for the customers, and developed a rapport with them and a trust with them, to the point that many times they had my cell phone number, and I would send them videos and pictures and let them know, and they would let me know how much they appreciated it, or let my friend know, not me. I got so caught up in the story and I could relate, but my friend know. So, and then when, my friends got to work with coworkers and in this time, keep in mind that in this time, she wasn't asking for anything. And the owners had a lot going on, and she took care of them. She drove them around anywhere they needed to go. She took them when their dogs got in a really bad fight. She helped the dogs. She took them to the vet. And just so many things. Rooted her on when she was going through things, cheered her on, and tried to give her pep talks. And it's just sad because then all she asked in return was, hey, by the way, the previous owner had me grooming for a while until they could find a new groomer. And I didn't apply for that job, and I didn't want to be a groomer. I was just here just to help out until we found one. And now we found one, so hey, I don't want to be a groomer. Well, the friend was like, hey, so we have a groomer, I don't want to groom anyone. And they're like, oh, well, okay, but the groomer needs you and we need more people to groom. And then the groomer kept wanting help and needing help and asking for help. And it got to the point where 2 years went by. And after 2 years, my friend was still grooming. And keep in mind, she hadn't asked for days off. She hadn't taken a bunch of days off. She hadn't asked for her schedule to be changed. She hadn't asked for a pay raise. And she had been working in that 2 years a massive amount of overtime and getting paid salary. And, salary can be good and bad. And in her situation, it was bad because she just kept accruing and accruing and accruing overtime, but never having the opportunity to come in late or go home early. And then meanwhile, her coworker had to only work 40 hours. And if there was anything left over, it was left for me. So it got frustrating with my friend because then pretty soon the owners were like, hey, I have an idea. Why don't we let you come in 3 hours late on a Thursday? And that way you're only working 37 hours, but you will get paid for 40. And that way we can start building up that time, and you can start, having a bit of a break, and we can start, paying you back essentially that time that you've accrued. But the problem was, this is on a very busy day. We have 2 very busy days. She has 2 very busy days, a Thursday and a Saturday. And she was telling me that they offered for her to have those 3 hours, to come in 3 hours late, making it 37 hours that she was working instead of 40, but getting paid 40, making it sound like it was this great deal. And, ooh, here we go. We're appeasing you. After 2 years, we're finally going to try to give you something that you still didn't ask for, and you still are asking just to not be a groomer and not help with grooming and not have anything to do with grooming. Because my friend at this point had been a groomer for 4 years after she had said, hey, I didn't apply. I didn't have a job description to be a groomer. She was just helping out. And she just kept begging and begging, not asking for anything else, had given all this overtime, had stayed during an ice storm, had lost, she lost holidays. She lost Christmas and Thanksgiving and 4th of July with her fiance and her son because she was too busy staying there at the kennel because the owners still weren't there. And the owners knew that there was an ice storm coming, and she had warned them about an ice storm coming, and they still chose to stay where in the city that they were moving from, knowing that meant that they would be like snowed in and iced in and not able to go anywhere, and knowing they were responsible and took all the responsibility for for the pets. And so they did, though. They did it, and they did it well. And but anyways, so then they thought, okay, we'll appease you. The story's going somewhere, I swear. Did I lose you guys? Check, check. Mic check. Are we still on? Are we still listening? I gotta make this story a little more. To wrap it up, they offered then her coworker on the same day that they offered her to come in 3 hours late, which is one of the busiest days. And that was one of the days that she's always there late. They were like, hey, come in 3 hours late. And then we're going to let your coworker go home 2 hours early. Okay, that coworker isn't owed any overtime, doesn't have overtime, isn't owed overtime. And they were like, we're going to have her work 38 hours and she's going to get paid 40. So my friend was on salary, had at this point worked basically 2 years of overtime and not, got a stinking thing from it. And then went and was told that the other person who didn't have any overtime owed at all and wasn't working overtime and not getting paid salary was now offered to get off 2 hours early on one of the very busiest day, which left my friend being short. Now she's short-staffed. She's short-staffed and already had an issue when they were full-staffed getting out of there on time. When she had a full staff, she already had an issue getting out of there on time, and it wasn't a time management issue. It was a lazy issue on my friend's coworker's part. A time management on their issue because she was going around helping them with everything, which I guess could be considered a time management on her part too, because I suppose her going around helping everybody with their stuff, she needs to not do that. But when her coworkers get so bitchy and have such an attitude and turn into a tyrant about it because they're complaining about how tired they are and how much they need help and they're exhausted and all of that, even though you're twice their age and you've been running around doing half of their grooms for them and their babs and all of that, it was making her mad. And now all of a sudden, this person who wasn't running around and wasn't doing a fraction of the work and wasn't working overtime and had already asked for numerous days off and got numerous days off and had asked for different types of equipment, which, yes, was definitely needed, and she rightfully asked for it. She had a reason to ask for it, but got it and wanted a raise and got it and wanted her schedule. Her schedule's been changed 3 times now because she's wanted it changed, knowing that when she worked there, it was split days off, but constantly complained about having split days off, even though she took the job knowing was the case. So every single thing that she had asked for, she got. And meanwhile, the owners kept telling me, well, you got new groom equipment. And I'm like, that's not for me. I'm not the groomer. I didn't ask for it, and I'm not the groomer. That's not for me. And many other people could use it. Well, you got 2 weeks paid vacation 2 years ago. No, that was vacation that you had owed us that you gave to everybody. Uh-oh, sirens. Uh-oh, gosh. That was 2 weeks that you gave to everybody, not just me, or not just my friend. She didn't get the 2 weeks. It wasn't exclusively to her. It was to everybody. Holy cow, uh-oh. That's sad. I hope everybody's okay. Again, if you haven't listened to this podcast, you will hear that. I don't edit it out. That's also a wake-up call for you guys, making sure you're still paying attention, checking in with you. But at any rate, every time that my friend's coworker would ask for anything, she got it, and then the owners acted as if that was for everybody and like it benefited everybody. And meanwhile, my friend kept going, well, all I'm asking for is not to groom anymore. I need to be the manager. I need to manage. I need to be able to do my job because I'm not able to do my job. I'm spending so much time getting asked to help with the groomer and spending so much time grooming dogs that, they didn't have time to do other things. And when my coworker would be on the phone, when my friend would be on the phone, the coworker would come up and talk to her and stuff when she's on the phone with the customer. And it's like, hey, so long story short, if you're still with me, they ended up letting her off 2 hours early for no reason. And then what ends up happening is if the grooms aren't done, who's going to do the grooms? Because never, ever, ever have they been done by 2 o'clock, ever. It's always been up until 4. So now you're on the busiest day, a day that my coworker was already working hard and staying late. You are having her come in late, which is only going to put her behind because no one is going to, in those 3 hours that she's not there, do her job. They aren't going to go, oh, while she's not here, we're going to go ahead and do that job for her. No, it just puts off that job. It just makes it now where there's more to do at the end of the day or the next day. So you have to make up for that. And then if you're letting your coworker go home 2 hours early on the busiest day, on a time when grooms are never done by then, now you're leaving work for somebody else. Now you're leaving work for people. How does that work out? You're just screwing that person over, the person that's been taking care of the place. So my friend looked at it like, you know what? It's okay. Because this is now the fire that she needed to be the person that she's been wanting to be forever and have the business that she's wanted and fulfill her dreams. And, she's a sink or swim kind of gal. So I have faith that she will, this will just be the fire. She's like one of those people like the old school, well, if you want to learn how to swim, you just throw them in the middle of the pond. And then, I'm that person. You just have to throw me in the middle of the pond. And it's like either I die or I'm swimming. I do not have a choice. I like the pressure. I feed off the pressure. The pressure is what fuels me. And then I'm not going to lie. I just want to succeed, to be like, you could have had this. You don't know what you got till it's gone. And, they're going to find out. They're going to find out what they had. And there's going to be some kinks and some roadblocks. And the sad thing is, it started, out of absolutely no reason. It could have been prevented. It could have been avoided. But it's a good thing because when you work with people that have tempers, like myself, I have a temper, I admit it, but I only have a temper when I'm feeling trapped, when I'm feeling backed into a corner. But otherwise, I like to get along with people. I like to get to know people. I like to understand what makes people tick. I've done a million podcasts about that. People are fascinating to me, but I do not do well with people yelling at me and coming in hot. And I admit I come out swinging, and that's not right. 2 wrongs don't make a right. People should not scream and yell. But when someone has done that to you over and over and over again in your past, and they are screaming and yelling, and they're larger and taller, and you're alone, you tend to, as a woman, kind of come out swinging, But again, I look at it like, there are blessings when you think something is just not going to work out, and you're like, oh my God, this is so stressful, and this is just, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, of course, you have every right to feel that way because it is stressful. It absolutely is stressful to have to find a job. It's stressful to have to figure out how to pay bills. It's stressful to have to do interviews, and you need a babysitter and now you're switching your schedule, and it's stressful on many levels. But I try very, very hard to say, look, things, I'm sure, and I know it's corny and everyone says it and everyone's going to go, I know what you're going to say, because everyone does know what I'm going to say, because sometimes things that are said over and over again are cheesy, but they're true. And that is, sometimes shit just happens for a reason. Sometimes things happen for a reason. And I look at it like I was never going to pull the trigger, or she was never going to pull the trigger. And I don't tend to pull the trigger unless I am forced to do so. But once I am, oh man, I am like a shotgun. I will absolutely not stop until I achieve what I set out to do. You are not getting in my way. I am a bull in a china shop. If there is an obstacle, bull in a china shop. I am powering through it. Once you get that fire lit, look out. And it takes the pressure to light the fire. It takes someone telling me I can't do it. I'm one of those. I'm one of those textbook fucking psychiatrist wet dreams where if you tell me, you can't go in there, and I'm like, now I want to go in there. Or if you say, you can't do it, you'll never be able to do it, I'll be like, oh, watch me. Watch me. Now I'm doing it, which is a good and a bad thing. I have a lot of pride, and pride, again, is fantastic, but it also sometimes it can bite you in the ass. Sometimes your pride can be a little too big, and it can create issues. But in this particular instance, my pride is going to be what directs me, what fuels me, what keeps me going. And now it's my own ego. This is not against everybody else. It's not to spite other people. It's not to necessarily show other people. It's a me thing. That's why I like individual sports. I've always played individual sports like track and cross country, because I like, if I'm going to win, I'm sorry, but I want all of the credit for me. I want the win to be because I did it, me, myself, and I earned it. And if I fail, I want the failure to be because I failed, because it was something that I did, something I screwed up, not because someone else made me fail. That would just piss me off. I want all the glory, and I want, to feel the pain and misery of losing. And so the same thing when it comes to something like this. I'm not trying to be spiteful. I just want to succeed, because now I'm like, well, I'm going to succeed for me, because I want to be happy and I want to be successful. And also because if you tell me I can't, then I'm going to do it. But of course, there is a lot more to my friend's side of the story. And it's just sad when you feel like someone doesn't have your back. Have you felt like that? Someone that you've put a lot of time and energy into, and you've bent over backwards for, and they just constantly slap you in the face, and they just don't have your back. They just don't believe you when you're telling the truth, and the other person is lying. Her bosses, the owners, would constantly be like, well, that's not what she said. Well, I didn't hear her say that. That's not what she said. She said that you said this and that. It was that kind of crap. So my friend was like, okay, so you're calling me a liar then. It's basically, then that's what they were doing. They were just calling her a liar without actually saying the words. Well, that's not what she said. That's not what we heard. Okay, so the person that's been here longer, that's older, and is talking to your face about stuff, opposed to the person that ever since they got there, chaos has been created, has asked for things, has constantly asked for things, and doesn't say all that stuff to your face. And then tries to manipulate and get in so that they can take over. Okay. It's frustrating, but at the same time, I feel good because this is what I needed. And so I don't have to stress. It's not my problem. I do very, very, very much not worry about the dogs as in I think that they're unsafe. That's not what I mean. I'm going to miss, there we go. I will very much miss the dogs. I will very much miss the customers so much. They were, like I said, like my family. That's the part that sucks. And she did not get to say goodbye. And that's very hard. But that's okay because, again, I talk to a lot of these people. I identify with this story so much that I keep saying me because I'm just feeling the story so much. I'm getting so wrapped up into it, Yeah. Anyway, she just got so connected to her customers, and that's the part that's hard, and her customers' pets. I'm trying to not totally say, where she works and stuff, and I'm trying to kind of keep it a little obscure so I know I sound weird, especially when I say pets. But it's hard, but that's okay because she's tenacious and it'll all work out. How are things going with you guys? What's going on? Are things working out for you? Are you, did maybe you get something, did something happen and maybe it turned out to be for the better? I love it when that happens. I love it when, I don't want to say I love it when something bad happens because I don't mean that, but when something bad happens and it turns out to where you're like, wow, if this wouldn't have happened, then XYZ wouldn't have happened. And that, and it's like, wow. So I did have to go through some stuff, but oh my gosh, something absolutely amazing came out of it. I love it when that happens. That's happened to me like once, but that's okay. I loved it when that happened. Most of the time when something happens, it just goes to shit. And then I'm like, oh my God, this will turn into something. And then, wah, 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 boo, wah, wah. Just kidding. That sounded really like leftist. That sounded very lefty of me. I apologize. That got dark. I was all, up, and then I went down. Anyway, I got sidetracked by this guy who's trying to maneuver this trailer and this truck in this weird parking lot that has these interesting slopes and like these gigantic puddles. And I got sidetracked watching him. It was pretty fascinating. He's doing a good job. I would have been high-centered like a turtle and somehow like rolled over. I don't know how, but I would have done it. I would have rolled the truck and the trailer somehow. It would have been talented. Anyway, I appreciate everybody that's been listening. I noticed that I've been getting more and more people tuning in to see what kind of absolute crap type of podcast this is. I think that people are like, you got to listen to this podcast, not because I'm so great and not because it's so awesome, but they're like, listen to this shit. Like she's allowing planes to go through. We can't even hear her. She gets so sidetracked talking about 49 different things that she's left us hanging on a million stories. She thinks she has wrapped it up. She brags that she comes back around and ties everything in, but she doesn't. She just leaves us hanging on 49 stories because she gets so sidetracked. That's probably what I do. I probably think that I wrap things up, but really you guys have been sitting here waiting for me to finish up a story from like when I first started the podcast. And here this whole time I'm like, man, I am great at remembering what the hell I'm talking about. But probably not. That wouldn't make sense with my insomnia and all of that. I'm tired. My brain doesn't function. At any rate, listen, if you've taken the time out to listen to even half my podcast or half of a show, thank you. That's half the time, however long that was. I don't know how long the length of the podcast you listened to was, so I don't know what half of that would be. But I appreciate you taking the energy to do it, even if it was just a little bit of energy. You still took it, and, maybe you were going to do something else, and you didn't. And instead, you listened to my podcast. If that's the case, fuck yeah, America, fuck yeah. And every other country, not just America. I'm talking about every country. Every country, fuck yeah. Anyway, thank you for every single person. Doesn't matter what country you're from. Doesn't matter what your background is. I appreciate every single person that's taken the time to listen. I keep saying taking the time. That's another drinking game thing. If I say taking the time one more time, you guys will feel like, geez. Anyway, it's like as much as the left says racist and Nazi and bigot and xenophobe. I'm saying the same words over and over again. Turning into one of them? No, I would never. Just kidding. You can listen to me if you're a leftist. I welcome leftists. I welcome everybody. I'm going to make fun of you, but I make fun of everybody. I make fun of my own kids. I gave birth to them. I make fun of them a lot, all the time. So, there's that. Anyway, hey, I hope you have yourself a great day. Go tell a friend, a neighbor, a coworker, tell someone. Tell everybody about my podcast. Go ahead. Tell them all about my podcast. Tell them to download the podcast and to get notifications for when my next podcast is. And know that, tell them to download the ones that had the intro and the outro. Those are fancy. Those are my fancy podcasts. You know, that's like upscale, high-class podcasts right there. Back in the days, my early days, when I had an intro and an outro, when I was super fancy. Listen to those. Yeah. And then work your way up, you know? Anyway, hey, thank you so much. And until next time.